Okay. Mikey? Boss Mikey? Ni hao ma? Unahin ba natin yung prayer bago wala dito. Ah, ito. Invocation. Tama naman. Tapos national anthem. Tapos roll call. Session is now called to order. May I recognize the distinguished gentle lady from the Lone District of Iloilo, Representative Baronda, for today's invocation. You are hereby recognized, Representative Baronda, for the invocation. Kindly unmute. Please unmute.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of our Lord. Heavenly Father, look gently on the people who are gathered today. We thank you for all the blessings that you have been showering us. We are thankful for the grace and goodwill you have given the leaders and members of this assembly, and for lending everyone the strength to serve despite the many challenges and difficulties we face. We ask you, dear Lord, to send on us through wisdom, as for us to arrive with fair judgment and sound decisions for the benefit of our constituency. During this time of uncertainty, we pray for enlightenment and inspire us to do your will. We humbly ask of you to be our constant companion and guide in our thoughts and in our actions. We pray for your compassion as we navigate through this pandemic, as we interact with each other in this communal endeavor. Grant us, Lord, the grace to acknowledge you in each one of us. We also pray for Representative Francisco Datol Jr. of the Senior Citizens Party List, who has joined our Creator today. We pray for the salvation and forgiveness of his soul. We humbly ask for compassion for the loved ones he has left on earth. May they find comfort in knowing that he has reunited with you. This we ask through your divine mercy. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we call the roll of members.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The Secretary General is hereby directed to proceed with the roll call.
Roll call of members. Honorable Representatives. Pante, Baya, Bellanosa, Abu Exaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta Alba, Jong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Mintado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Berzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Rosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabuchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Mariala Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizalde, Coanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Cuaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, Demaporo Abdullah, Demaporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas, Cleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Ergel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Fer Juliet, Fer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Andro, Goroseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halushos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Kong Hun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Limcaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losotan, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangunda Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Guaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmento, Saulug, Sevillano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherni, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tianco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 300 members responded to the call.
With 300 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of the quorum. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve the journal number 3 of August 3 and 5, 2020. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The journal is hereby approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communication and committee reports.
The Secretary General is hereby directed to proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. House Bill 7248, further strengthening the autonomy of LGUs by Representative Garcia Jose Enrique.
The chair would like to advise the section to please improve the audio.
House Bill 7248, further strengthening the autonomy of LGUs by Representative Garcia Jose Enrique.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill numbers 7249, 7256, and 7280, creating the Boracay Island Development Authority by Representatives Olivares, Marquez, and Villafuerte.
To the Committee on Local Government and the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 7250, establishing a TESDA Training and Assessment Center in Paracelis Mountain Province by Representative Dalog.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bills 7251, providing for the National Energy Policy and Regulatory Framework for the Philippine LPG industry by Representative Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Energy and the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill numbers 7252 to 7255, declaring special non-working holidays in the province of Misamis Occidental by Representative Owaminal.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7257, protecting e-consumers and e-merchants by Representative Marquez.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill numbers 7265 and 7281, amending the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002 by Representatives Rodriguez and Villafuerte.
to the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation,
House Bill Number 7266, granting universal social pension to senior citizens. Representative Rodriguez.
to the Special Committee on Senior Citizens,
House Bill Number 7267 and 7274, introducing the Medical Reserve Corps. Representative Rodriguez and Daza.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill Number 7268, providing for a national housing development, production, and financing program. Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Housing and Urban Development,
House Bill Number 7269, establishing the rental housing subsidy program. Representative Rodriguez.
to the Committee on Housing and Urban Development,
House Bill Number 7270, institutionalizing transportation service contracting. Representative Salo.
to the Committee on Transportation,
House Bill Number 7271, increasing the amount and expanding the use of the Legal Assistance Fund, amending for the purpose the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995. Representative Gaite, Zarate, Cullamat, Castro Franz, Brosas, and Elago.
to the Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs,
House Bill 7272, strengthening laws against the illicit trade of tobacco products and related raw materials. Representative Sevillano.
to the Committee on Ways and Means,
House Bill Number 7273, declaring Barangay Malico in Santa Fe, Nueva Vizcaya an eco-tourism zone. Representative Quaresma.
to the Committee on Tourism,
House Bill Number 7275, strengthening the COMELEC. Representative Pimentel.
to the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms,
House Bill Number 7276 and 7277, creating barangays in the province of Sultan Kudarat. Representative Swansing Horacio.
to the Committee on Local Government,
House Bill Number 7278 and 7289, changing the names of Biwang Central Elementary School and Biwang National High School in Sultan Kudarat to Dato Matinlodong Galmak Central School and Dato Matinlodong Galmak National High School. Representative Swansing Horacio.
to the Committee on Basic Education and Culture,
House Bill Number 7282, modernizing the Bureau of Immigration. Representative Villafuerte.
to the Committee on Justice,
House Bill Number 7283, creating the Center for Disease Prevention and Control. Representative Villafuerte.
to the Committee on Health,
House Bill Number 7284, granting Philippine citizenship to Benvenido Marañaon Morenjon. Representative Romualdez Yeda, Romualdez Ferdinand.
to the Committee on Justice,
Resolutions, House Resolution 1105, directing the Committee on Veterans Affairs and Welfare to inquire on the undelivered Philippine Veterans Bank shares by the Board of Trustees of the World War II veterans. Representative Roman.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1106, expressing profound sympathy and condolences from the House, the bereaved family of the late Honorable Representative Marisa Mercado Andaya, 1st District, Camarines Sur. Representative Olivares.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1107, commending Philippine golfer Bianca Pagdanganan for playing in the Drive-On Championship of the Ladies Professional Golf Association in Toledo, Ohio. Representative Crisologo.
to the Committee on Youth and Sports Development,
House Resolution 1108, directing the Committees on Basic Education and Culture and Higher and Technical Education to inquire into the questionable tuition rates and other fees imposed by some private schools despite the transition to online learning platforms. Representative Pineda.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1109, calling for an urgent inquiry into DepEd's guidelines on alternative work arrangements during the COVID-19 pandemic and its implementation. Representative Castro Franz, Zarate, Gaite, Cullamat, Brosas, and Elago.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1110, directing the Committee on Agriculture and Food to inquire into the approval of GMO golden rice and serious lapses in the approval by the Bureau of Plant Industries. Representative Cullamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro Franz, and Elago.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1111, directing the House through the Committee on Human Rights to probe the DSWD's memorandum on Knowing the Enemy webinar by the National Task Force to End Local Communist and Armed Conflict. Representative Cullamat, Zarate, and Gaite.
to the Committee on Rules,
House Resolution 1112, urging the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation to investigate the alleged various acts of oppression and harassment against the employees of the National Museum of the Philippines and the National Museum Employees Organization. Representative Gaite, Zarate, and Colyamat.
to the Committee on Rules,
Resolution, both houses number 6, proposing amendments to the 1987 Constitution. Representative Defensor Lawrence.
to the Committee on Rules,
Communications, letter dated 8 June 2020 of Aurora C. Ignacio, President and CEO, SSS, providing House copy of their 2019 Accomplishment Report.
to the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization,
Letters and emails from several municipal mayors, city mayors, provincial governors informing the House on the reports on the fund utilization and status of program, project, activity implementation relative to the Bayanihan grant to cities and municipalities and provinces for certain months of 2020.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
Letter dated July 1, 2020 of Chona P. Laksamana, OIC Assistant Regional Director, Office 3 COA, furnishing the House with copies of the 2019 calendar year financial audit reports on certain water districts.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
Letter dated July 3, 2020 of Santiago B. Cane Jr., Provincial Governor, Province of Agusan del Sur, submitting to the House their quarterly fiscal report of operations ending in June 30, 2020, and quarterly financial report of operations for the quarter ending June 30, 2020, on the Local Government Support Fund condition matching grant to provinces for road repair, rehabilitation, and improvement for calendar year 2018 and 2019.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
Consolidated Annual Audit Report of the Philippine Rice Research Institute for the year ending December 31, 2019.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
Calendar 2019 Annual Audit Reports on certain water districts.
to the Committee on Appropriations,
Letter dated July 30, 2020 of Executive Secretary Salvador C. Middledea, Office of the President, Malacanang, transmitting two original copies each of RA number 11481 and 11482, signed by President Duterte.
to the Archives,
Committee reports. Report number 402 of the Committees on Veterans Affairs and Welfare and Appropriation on House Bill number 7302.
to the Committee on Rules,
Reports number 403 to 405 of the Committees on Health and Appropriations on House Bill number 7320 and 7322.
to the Committee on Rules, the Majority Floor Leader,
Mr. Speaker, today being a Monday, and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour.
is there any objection to the motion? The Chair hears none. The privilege hour is hereby open. Majority Floor Leader,
Mr. Speaker, first, I now move that the gentleman from 2nd District, Surigao del Norte, the Honorable Robert Ace Barbers, be recognized to avail of the privilege hour.
the distinguished gentleman from the 2nd District of Surigao del Norte, a veteran lawmaker, in the person of Representative Barbers, is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Can you hear me, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, but you have a different picture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
You look
Thank
a
you very
little bit
much,
older.
Majority Leader.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a question of personal and collective privilege. Mr. Speaker, recently I stood before you strongly suggesting that we revisit the mining industry as a cure to help us repay the massive debt that we have accumulated to fight COVID-19. A few days after that, the country announced its worst quarterly GDP drop at negative 16.5%. Our total sources of dollar revenues, which kept us afloat in the past 2 decades, are also under threat. The BPOs and the OFW remittances combine for an estimated $60 billion annually. If we simulate a 10% to 20% decline in these two sectors, our net dollar position will suffer by $6 to $12 billion. Before we let the economy spiral down, Mr. Speaker, both in the GDP and dollar reserves, government will need to have a concerted effort with the private sector to aggressively advance and finance this sector. Exploration to production takes time, and we can reap the benefits probably 5, 10 years down the line, depending on the various stages of exploration between our existing mining companies. If we target, say, Mr. Speaker, a 5 to 10% share in the GDP, the mining sector can contribute 18 to 36 billion US dollars, more than enough to cover the gap that will be created by the reduced OFW remittances and the performance of the BPO sector. Looking at it from a global perspective, total value of the top 50 mining companies in the world stood at 957 billion US dollars as of June 30. In comparison, the entire value of our listed companies, lahat po ito, in the Philippines stood at $260 billion only. And I imagine that the mining sector only contributes to a fraction of that. In terms of GDP contribution, prominent mining countries such as Australia have mining contributing to their GDP at least a minimum of 6%. With Australia's GDP at 1.37 trillion dollars, this translates to $82 billion, almost 38 times the value of our mining output. If we indeed, Mr. Speaker, believe that our resources are among the best in the world, then the solution is obvious. It's not too far. Value-added mining is also a concern as the current state of this sector is yet to be fully integrated. We export our nickel, iron ore, and copper to developed countries who possess the technology to further refine the products to stainless steel and copper wires, among others. And we therefore sell low-value output only to import them back in its final form, putting us in a negative foreign exchange position. To optimize the value of our exports, I would strongly consider capital formation with respect to smelters and refineries so that value is enhanced before it leaves our shores. It can go on and on, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, I think this is a feasible and a realistic solution. As mentioned, I shall be reviewing our current laws and attempt to aggressively drive it forward to dramatically allow for increased financing, exploration, production, regulation, with the end goal of increasing our mining's output contribution to our currently threatened economy. While we are months or probably years away from a discovery of a COVID vaccine, our economy urgently and badly needs immediate vaccination. And to my mind, Mr. Speaker, mining is the solution. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Majority Leader.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of the Honorable Robert H. Barbers to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, motion is hereby approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next to avail of the privilege hour is the Honorable Lieda Marie Romualdez of the party list Tingog Sinirangan. I move that she be recognized to avail of the privilege hour. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished representative of Tingog Sinirangan, Honorable Yeda Marie Romualdez, is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Can you hear me?
May I ask the distinguished representative from Tingog Sinirangan to please unmute her system. We could not hear you.
Mr. Speaker, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues, I rise today on a question of personal and collective privilege to bring to your attention a matter of crucial importance to the lives and safety of millions of Filipino children. As the coronavirus disease continues to threaten the health and well-being of Filipinos, a silent pandemic has begun to plague the most vulnerable and helpless in our community. our children. It is a plague no less harmful, a pandemic no less vicious, the rising threat of online sexual exploitation of children. As communities in the countries are placed under quarantine due to COVID-19, there has been a significant increase in reports of online sexual exploitation involving children, including the sharing and selling of sexually explicit images of children. The Philippines has been long considered the epicenter of online sexual exploitation of children. The prevalence of osec has been attributed to the widespread poverty that continues to exist in our country. Desperate to break out of poverty or to provide for their families, even children are lured or even pressured by their parents into prostitution, pornography, and other forms of sexual exploitation and violence using the internet and other online platforms. The slowdown of economic activities resulting in the loss of their sources of livelihood and the increase in the unemployment rate has further plunged many of these already struggling families to the point of desperation, pushing parents to peddle their own children to online sexual predators. It is alarming and horrifying that as we try to grapple the effects of this pandemic, monsters of disturbing sexual obsessions who have been prevented from traveling due to movement restrictions have found a convenient way into our very homes. Community quarantine measures have confined children to their homes, and as a result, they are spending more time on their computers and other digital devices. The steep surge of online activity has made it more challenging to police the internet and harder to scrutinize the nature of digital content being produced and shared online. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, worrying findings on osec in the country have already been reported. In 2018 alone, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children based in the United States reported that at least 600,000 child sexual abuse materials from the Philippines were reported to have been shared and sold online. This marks a 1,300% increase from the previous year. As of May 25, the Office of Cybercrime under the Department of Justice received 279,166 cyber tips from March to May 2020, compared to the 76,561 cyber tips over the same period in 2019. That translates to an increase of 264.63%. A study by the United Nations Children's Fund showed that 1 in 5 Filipino children are vulnerable to osec, with boys found to be as vulnerable to sexual exploitation as girls. 1 in 5 children is one child too many. It is said that parents are able to turn a blind eye or ignore the dangerous effects of osec, rationalizing that the act is practically virtual and no physical injury is done to the child. But online sexual exploitation of children is a real harm, resulting in serious psychological trauma that leaves them emotionally scarred for life. It causes them chronic post-traumatic stress or even leading to instances of suicide attempts. Over the long term, the sexual abuse of children damages the ability of persons to establish trust and intimacy even years thereafter. Children have become more vulnerable to online predators because they now spend more time online with less parental supervision. In fact, adult predators have become more aggressive in initiating inappropriate interaction and sexual relationships with minors, exchanging sexually explicit images and videos, and at times even resorting to threats, extortion, manipulation, and emotional abuse. The risks of sexual abuse online happen starting with seemingly innocuous and harmless casual conversations, and slowly gaining a child's trust by appealing to their vulnerabilities. Sexual predators even make their way into chat rooms and video game sessions, sometimes posing as minors. These online interactions eventually escalate into adults forcing children to send sexually explicit photographs or videos or perform perverse sexual acts on live stream, oftentimes bribing them with money or exploiting their self-esteem issues. Worse, these images are often later on used to blackmail these children, to coerce them to send more sexually explicit materials and force them to keep the abuse a secret, threatening them to publicly share these photos if they choose to stop sending them. Children may also experience other forms of abuse, such as online sexual grooming and the creation, production, and distribution of child sexual abuse and exploitation materials by pedophiles and predators. Unfortunately, shame is what prevents these children from reporting these incidents. Shame is what allows the exploitation to continue. In a society where sex is considered a shameful taboo, this crippling fear of being exposed publicly or demeaned by social disapproval force children to stay silent. Shame thrives on silence. But what is even more shameful is when adults, parents, guardians, teachers, and people in government seem to take lightly and stay silent when these deeply troubling acts of sexual exploitation. The truth is our indifference or apathy lead children to hide the risky online interaction. We failed to take their side. We failed to assure our children that if ever an adult has made sexual advances against them, it is never, ever, ever their fault. Thus, the greater shame is on us for our failure to protect the most vulnerable members of our community, for allowing poverty to be a convenient excuse for our inaction to counter the continuing spread of osec, and for not being able to raise awareness among parents and the need to educate children on the risks of online sexual exploitation. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, the shame has to end. The violence and the exploitation of children online has to stop. But as it takes a village to raise a child, it would take an even greater amount of attention and cooperation to protect them. For this reason, I ask Congress to discuss and examine not only the underlying causes, but more importantly, the lasting solutions to this menace of online sexual exploitation. There is an urgent need for the House of Representatives to exercise its oversight mandate to investigate the rising incidence of OSEC in the country, look into the quality of policy implementation, and review existing and related laws to keep up with the complexity of OSEC and the increasing levels of digital technology. I add my voice to that of my colleagues in the House of Representatives who have already raised their concern about this alarming situation of online sexual exploitation and the sudden surge of online sexual predators, especially now during this COVID-19 pandemic. As chairperson of the House Committee on the Welfare of Children, I intend to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation and invite our partners in the executive branch to identify and address the gaps that prevent the speedy prosecution of OSEC cases, to ensure the full accountability and compliance of internet service providers and social media and other online platforms, to assess the capacity of enforcement agencies to respond to and handle osec cases, and to propose stronger social protection measures that will empower victims and witnesses to report cases of abuse and exploitation. We cannot tarry any longer, nor can we delay the end to this creeping pandemic. But we need more than just remove the risk of harmful content, contact, and conduct online. More importantly, we need to change our online behavior towards one that is fully cognizant of the dangers of the internet. Mindful of our legislative duty, the House Committee on the Welfare of Children will take a closer look into how society can contribute to the development of a safe and empowering online environment for children and young people. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we owe it to every Filipino child to ensure their safety and protection both online and offline, in their schools and in our homes, and to make the internet an enabling and empowering space for growth and learning. The true strength of our nation is seen in the smiles of children. The well-being, integrity, and safety of our children is the most precious gift that we can give them. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues. Madamo nga salamat sa inyong tanan.
Thank you, distinguished representative of Tingog Sinirangan Party List. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from 2nd District, Bataan, Honorable Joet Garcia, for his manifestation of support.
The distinguished gentleman from Bataan, Honorable Garcia, is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Majority Floor Leader. First of all, let me commend the Honorable Representative of Tingog Sinarangan Party List and Chairperson of the Committee on Welfare of Children for standing up and pursuing a delicate and extremely urgent menace wherein our country's children are exposed to. It is indeed appalling to note that cases of online sexual exploitation of children, or osec, in our country is increasing at an alarming rate. It is even more revolting to learn that the Philippines is now tagged as the global epicenter of osec trade. No reasonable and decent man should accept this and let the ill-repute label attached to us a minute longer. Let us put a stop to the desecration of the moral, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being of children by predators and unscrupulous individuals and entities who exploit not only the weakness of the vulnerable, but also the seeming gaps in our laws and their implementation. It now behooves upon us to immediately address whatever weakness and gaps our laws against exploitation and abuse of children may suffer from. I am therefore manifesting my unconditional support for an investigation in aid of legislation which Congresswoman Romualdez seeks to pursue to look into the quality of policy implementation and further strengthen the relevant laws to ensure that the protection which they afford in favor of children are adequate and are effectively and timely dispensed by all concerned. In due time, I will also file a measure specifically defining and penalizing osec and reinforcing the roles and responsibilities of various implementing agencies and local government units to put a more potent strategy towards combating and eliminating osec. Meanwhile, I especially urge the local government units to step up their efforts in spreading awareness of the evils of osec and carry out stricter implementation of existing anti-child abuse, exploitation, and trafficking laws in their respective jurisdictions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader. Magandang hapon po.
Thank you, distinguished gentleman from Bataan. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from 4th District, Pangasinan, Honorable Christopher Top de Venecia, for his manifestation of support.
The gentleman from the 4th District of Pangasinan is hereby recognized. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. First off, let me show my gratitude and reinforce Congresswoman and Chairperson Yeda Marie Romualdez for her determination and courage in championing the cause of children, not only in the online sexual exploitation of children or OSEC, but in all issues concerning them. As she mentioned in her privilege speech and as shared to us by the NGO Plan International, an estimated 100,000 Filipino children are brought into prostitution each year, with 4 out of 5 of them, or 80%, being prone to online bullying. 1 out of 5 children, or 20%, suffering from sexual abuse and violence at home, in school, and their communities, and that the Philippines has appallingly become a source country for children subjected to sex trafficking and forced labor, and to some extent, a destination as well. As of May 2020, the Cybercrime Office of the Justice Department reported almost 280,000 cybercrime tips, and 20% of that translates to a staggering figure of about 56,000 possible consummated sexual exploitation of children in 1 year. Also reported was a 264.63% spike in online child pornography from March 1 to May 24. Even before COVID-19, as Congresswoman Yeda shared with us earlier, the Philippines already registered a 1,300% increase in the production and distribution of child sexual abuse materials in 2018, with at least 600,000 being shared online as compared to 45,645 in the previous year. What more now na kulob lahat sa bahay at ang mga kababayan natin ay hirap, ikahos at desperado sa pagbagsak ng ating ekonomiya. Ang kahirapan at ang kultura ng pagkatahimik sa mga maling gawain ang ilan sa mga nagiging sanhi ng pagtaas ng kaso ng OSEC sa ating bansa. Ibig sabihin, Mr. Speaker, gaya ng COVID-19, ang OSEC ay isang silent menace, lalo na't nasa advent tayo ng 4th Industrial Revolution at nasa kalagitnaan ng social media at ng Internet of Things. With the advent of modern technology, even children as young as 5 years old are adept in the use of cell phones, iPads, and computers. For children, it starts with games, game sessions, and chat rooms. Without proper parental supervision, children are free to navigate and explore various programs and applications. Unwittingly, they open their lines to online predators and pedophiles. It is horrid and downright sickening when adults, teachers, even the children's own parents become the perpetrators themselves. The effect of these forms of violence and aggressions and malevolence on children, the trauma, fear, pain, and the loss of self-esteem and self-worth is really beyond measure. Ano pa natin mabibigyang lunas ang mga lasting at devastating effects nito kung mag-spiral na sila into depression, social isolation, or even suicidal attempts? Kung mag-domino effect ito sa kanilang pagtanda. Our children are the future pillars of our society. We have the paramount duty to protect and save them. While there are various laws protecting children, it has gray areas when it comes to OSEC. There has to be a coming together, gaya ng sabi ni Congresswoman Yeda kanina, of government agencies, NGOs, the academe, and parents to take a hard look at OSEC, to pinpoint the heart of the problem, propose solutions, establish safeguards, and impose penalties to deter and punish online predators and violators. We need to revisit all the laws covering the protection of children, as reported by the Child Rights Network. The Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009, the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act, the Cybercrime Prevention Act, the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act of 2009, the Special Protection of Children Against Child Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act, and the other ancillary laws like the Safe Spaces Act to see if they are still responsive to the changing landscape, if they're being enforced properly, so we can finally eradicate osec in our country once and for all. My dear colleagues, I urge you to join me and Congressman Joet Garcia from Bataan in supporting Congresswoman Yeda Romualdez in this laudable and urgent endeavor. Children are hashtag not for sale. Children are our future. And together, let's hashtag shut down OSEC once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again, congrats to our champion of the welfare of children, Chairperson Yeda Marie Romualdez.
Thank you, gentlemen from the 4th District of Pangasinan. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman, the lady from Gabriela Party List, Honorable Arlene Brosas, for her manifestation of support.
The distinguished representative of Gabriela Party List is hereby recognized. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues, I manifest my support to the Honorable Representative Yeda Romualdez in the duty to end online sexual abuse and exploitation of children, especially now in the time of the pandemic. Now, more than ever, we need to end this plague that has been damaging the lives of the Filipino children. 1 in 5 children is indeed one child too many. It is truly disturbing and worrisome that parents of the children victims are their own personal abusers and traffickers. But, as Congresswoman Yeda stated, in most cases, poverty is the reason of the continuing spread of osec. In the same way that we strive to make their traffickers pay, we also need to address the underlying reasons why children fall victim to the system of osec. The rising cases of unemployment, the hunger of families, and the inaccessibility of education. Ito ngang nakaraang buwan ng Hulyo lamang, katulad ng pagkakabanggit ko sa aking nakaraang privilege speech sa World Observance of World Day Against Trafficking, nakatanggap mismo ang opisina ng kinatawang ito ng kaso ng isang 13 gulang na bata na ginahasa kapalit ng smartphone para sa kanyang online classes. OSEC is a much bigger system of exploitation than those within the family. OSEC booms because of silence and shame. Yes, but also because of impunity. Kailangan matigil na ang kawalan ng pananagutan. We demand the government to have the abusers punished and the victims be given justice. We truly owe it to every Filipino child the safety and protection both online and offline. And again, we need to protect our women and children and save their future from the silent crime. As quoted nga po sa Salinlahi Alliance for Children's Concerns, ang hashtag #BeatOSEC nila o online sexual abuse and exploitation of children, addressing OSEC is particularly challenging, especially in countries with remarkably high poverty incidence, where many children are forced by circumstances to engage in illicit and risky trades in the hopes of earning money. Such economic misfortune of many families has become an advantage for sexual predators to abuse and exploit children. And we fear that more Filipino children might be put in this vulnerable situation as a result of widespread joblessness, increasing poverty, and hunger incidents during the unabated coronavirus spread in the country. This representation joins the whole House Committee on the Welfare of Children to discuss and examine the underlying causes and lasting solutions to beat and shut down online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat sa ating chairwoman of the Committee on the Welfare of Children.
Maraming salamat din po sa inyo ang kinatawan ng Gabriela Party List, the Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from 3rd District of Bukidnon, Honorable Manuel Subiri, for his manifestation of support.
The gentleman from the 3rd District of Bukidnon is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Maraming pong salamat, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I would like to manifest my strong, not just my strong support, but my super strong support to the resolution of Congresswoman Yeda Romualdez. This has been long overdue, Mr. Speaker. We need to address the abuse on children or of children immediately. Now at this day and age, now with these COVID times, mas lalo po ngayon naaabuso po yung ating mga bata, ating mga anak. More people are in the net or the so-called World Wide Web. Dependent on this digital age, Mr. Speaker, mas lalo na po nadadami o tumadami yung problema natin sa child exploitation. Hence, the frequency of the abuse has tremendously increased and should be stopped immediately. Let us protect our children at all cost. I laud the efforts and I congratulate Congresswoman Yeda Romualdez for her efforts in making this happen. And please make me, Congresswoman Yeda, be part of your quest in protecting our children. We are here and we will protect our children all the way through. And please count on us all the time, Congresswoman. And congratulations. And I would just like to manifest my full and strong support for your efforts. Maraming pong salamat, Mr. Speaker, and mabuhay po kayo, Kong Yeda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished gentleman from the 3rd District of Bukidnon. The Majority Floor Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from the 1st District of Samar, Honorable Edgar Sarmiento, for his manifestation of support.
The distinguished gentleman from Samar is hereby recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Majority I'm hoping that the church from Mr. Speaker.
There seems to be a problem with, there seems to be a technical problem. The gentleman from Samar.
Mr. Speaker, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please, kindly proceed.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the Honorable Chairperson of the Children Welfare if she will allow herself for a short interpretation from the gentleman, the 1st District of Samar?
If the distinguished chairperson will allow it, then please proceed.
Again, I cannot hear chairperson of the children. Whether she will allow to you, she will yield to some questions.
Is the distinguished gentle lady, the lady from Tingog Party List, willing to yield to some questions? I think the gentleman from Samar, there is a technical difficulty that we are experiencing now. I think The Majority Floor Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, due to some technicalities of our internet connection, may I respectfully advise the gentleman from Samar to end his manifestation, to wrap up his manifestation so that we can proceed with our...
Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader. Since there seems to be a problem on the system, I just want to manifest my support to the chairperson. In fact, I am willing to be part of, if ever, as a member of the 18th Congress, I'm willing to be a part, if ever she will need my assistance or help, because I do believe, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader, that the way back before, there were already issues in Cebu pertinent again to child pornography and online sexual problem which we want to address. So again, congratulations, Mr. Speaker, to the chairperson on the Children's Welfare Bureau for the timely message he delivered on the privileged speech he had pertinent to the problem we have in this country, the child pornography. That's all, Mr. Speaker, Majority Leader. Thanks so much, my dear colleagues. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Gentleman from Samar, the Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honorable Edgar Sarmiento for acceding to my request. Mr. Speaker, with that, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Liada Marie Romualdez, including the manifestations, to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate actions.
Is there any objection to the motion? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. Secretary General, please take note. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege hour.
There is a motion to terminate the privilege hour. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker,
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend.
Session is suspended for 2 minutes. Ako na. Hindi, para kay speaker. Balik ka dito. Tapos suspend ko rin after.
Session is resumed. Speaker Alan Compañero Vitor Cayetano will now address the body.
Thank you, Majority Leader. If my people, which are called by name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. 2 Chronicles 7:14. As we humble ourselves before the Almighty God, we ask for His grace, for His mercy, for His forgiveness. We ask for the healing of our people and of our land, not just from the virus, but from the conflicts that continue to divide our country, from moral decay, and from all the that ails us as a people and as a nation. May we find common cause in His love to stand together and to heal and to recover as one. The purpose of government is to do good and to prevent evil. In a few minutes, we're going to vote on Bayanihan 2. We pass laws that enable and empower the executive to fulfill its duties. Historically, as in the present case, government is almost only able to react to the changing situation as we work to save the lives and livelihoods of people. That's why we're always reminded that you cannot have old solutions for new problems. But if we are to have a better future, we need to do more than just aim for survival. Madalas po natin sabihin dito, maganda po yung programang Pantawid. Pero hindi pwedeng habang buhay, pantawid na lang. Kailangan tulungan natin makaahon ang ating mga kababayan. Government must and will lead the way in adapting, innovating, and managing every aspect of this public health and economic crisis. And we need the cooperation of everyone to act, to make it to work. We appeal to our fellow Filipinos, let us act as one. We, the members of the House of the People, stand before you today humbled by the enormity of the task that history and circumstance has laid before us, to bring our nation back to the brink of public health and economic ruin brought about by this global pandemic. Wala po sa atin nung tumakbo noong 2019 ang nag-isip na madadanasan natin itong pandemya na to. Wala po sa atin dito ang may plataforma or may solusyon o may programa how to deal with this public health crisis. As we commune with our constituents, during the pandemic, umikot po kami sa amin pong mga kababayan, ang mga party list sa kanilang mga sektor at ang mga district congressmen sa kanilang distrito at yung House leadership ay nakipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang sektor, sa leaders po ng industriya, sa ekonomiya, sa ating po mga health professionals. Nakita po namin, we've seen the pain and suffering in their eyes. We are acutely aware of the responsibility that lies heavily on our shoulders. Like all of you, we have knelt in prayer and pleaded with the Lord to lift this trial, na sana matapos na ang pagsubok na dala ng COVID-19. But at the same time acknowledging that changing our ways and working hard for the welfare of others is our greatest offering to God and the nation. We have thus rolled up our sleeves and worked relentlessly with the executive branch of government, with the Senate, with the media, and our constituents to craft legislation, come up with programs that will work, try to find solutions to short and long-term problems, also can help alleviate the effects of COVID-19, as well as the other challenges our people are already facing before this pandemic hit. Opo, marami ng problema bago pa nagkaroon ng COVID-19. Hindi po maaari na isolve natin ang mga problemang dinudulot ng COVID-19, pero hayaan natin na walang solusyon ang problema before COVID-19. Katulad po ng trabaho. Totoo po yun, 100,000 OFW ang bumabalik at kailangan natin tulungan. Pero kaya nga po sila umalis dahil kulang ng trabaho, ng quality na trabaho sa ating bansa. Dati na pong maraming Pilipino ang walang trabaho, lalo na pong dumami ngayon. These efforts na ginawa po natin dito sa Kongreso have bore fruits. Yet we shall not talk now about these fruits or the many sleepless nights of the debates, dialogues, discourse, Zoom meetings among your representatives, members of the cabinet, policy and health experts, and frontliners, because our people are still suffering. Kahit anong pag-usapan natin ngayon na nagawa ng Kongreso o resulta, alam naman natin po ang sasabihin ng constituents natin, kulang, tulong pa rin. Tulong na maibsan po ang mapait na karanasan sa pang-araw-araw just to survive. Because our people are still suffering, simply put, we just have to do better. We have to do more, we have to deliver. Tayo lahat po sa gobyerno. While we have seen this pandemic bring out the best in us as individuals and as people, allow me also to address the pressing issue of vanishing common sense, discipline, and concern for the welfare of our neighbors. That is in no small part responsible for the escalating spread of the virus among various communities. Up to a few months ago, millions of Filipinos in Metro Manila and surrounding provinces and other highly urbanized places like Metro Cebu and Metro Davao woke up every morning to take part in daily travail of commuting in a mega city, packed trains, cars, mga puno na jeepney, na buses, and all other manners of wheeled vehicles, which were themselves stuck bumper to bumper in a slow-moving river of mechanized humanity. This migration was repeated every single working day. While many Filipinos have grown used to this daily metropolis-wide exodus, which often results in monstrous traffic jams and at all times of the day. Dati rush hour lang, pero madalas sa Metro Manila, sa Metro Cebu, buong araw na. To the untrained observer, it is completely and utterly devoid of order and rules. Para bang wala ng batas. Even the environment, which is protected by stringent laws and rules, have not been spared. Grabe po ang damage sa ating ecology at environment before COVID-19. However, ang katotohanan po ay may batas. The truth is there are rules, just like every part of our life. Even the chaotic traffic of Metro Manila has its rules. Rules and law and order. After all, the bedrock of any functioning society is law and order, is having rules, having laws, that we all give part of our freedom to be able to follow these rules so that we can have more in life and more freedoms. Often, the most simple guidelines govern the most complex human interaction. When to speak, how long do we have to make eye contact? Do we have to shake his hand? Or bawal ba kamayan? Where to sit? How closely do we stand near each other? Do we raise our voice or not? Do you whisper or do you shout? None of us thought how much all of these rules were so important just a few months ago. Now we do. In fact, we must. Familiarity with these rules can mean the difference between living with the effects of this virus for weeks, months, or years, of economic recovery or economic ruin. It could be a matter of life or death for many of us, or for people we love. Let me put it this way. All that government has done or can do will be for nothing if we as individuals, as Filipinos, fail to do our part. No amount of laws, executive orders, fines, kahit anong pananakot po na gawin ng police o ng IATF, kahit anong guidelines po ng IATF or ng WHO, this cannot take the place of 4 very simple common sense rules. Wear a mask properly. Wash your hands frequently. Observe social distancing. And avoid unnecessary crowded places. May mga simple lang po na pag sinunod po natin lahat, lubusan mababawasan ang pagkalat ng COVID-19. Sadly, the continued disregard for this rule forces us to re-examine our society. We need to ask ourselves, have we as a nation so completely lost our sense of patriotism, our common decency, our concern for our neighbors, even for our loved ones, that we need the police to enforce something so basic and so simple? Madalas po marinig na, bakit may pulis dyan? Pero pwede po natin ibalik yung tanong, bakit nga? Kung lahat naman po tayo sumusunod Tignan nyo po sa Subic Bay, di ba? Madalas po, wala kang makikitang pulis. Bakit? O traffic enforcer. Kasi lahat tayo sumusunod sa traffic laws ng lugar na yon. Korea, Japan, Singapore, Vietnam, madalas mabanggit, the success of these countries or the relative success of these countries in dealing with COVID-19 owes some part to the response of their government. Leadership always matters. But more to the readiness of their people to do their part and make sacrifices for the common good. This is the lesson we have to learn and apply. But government cannot do this for us. We have to do it for ourselves. I know we have struggled, but I still have faith in the Filipino that we will find the discipline and the spirit of unity that is necessary to save our lives and our livelihoods, buhay at kabuhayan. Bayanihan is alive in all of us. Yes, we would disagree on many controversial political, legal issues. Pero pagdating sa paglaban sa COVID, pwede po tayo magkaisa. Today, as the whole world struggles with the effects of the new coronavirus or COVID-19, governments are working double time to come up with legislation and policies that would hedge against disaster, all the while not knowing exactly where the danger will be or what form it may take months or years from now. And as each new research reveals, another terrifying fact about the virus and its effect, our common resolve to overcome these challenges must also grow stronger. Araw-araw po, we learn something new, something more terrifying, o balita. Sa atin lang po, sinong hindi na-shock sa atin nung sinabi po na hindi na natin makakasama physically si Congressman Datol. Na isang magandang halimbawa ng kongresista na kahit sabihin nating senior ka na, wag ka muna mag-attend physically. Hindi, trabaho ko ito. So somehow, every time that there is something negative, something that worries us, something that shocks us, we must find the strength to also find hope. So I will find hope in Congressman Datol's spirit and his fighting spirit and his attitude to work harder for our people, to work harder with you, my dear colleagues. The Bayanihan to Recover as One Act is the Filipinos' loud and clear shot across the bow of this climate of uncertainty and despair. Kailangan malinaw po yun, na itong Bayanihan to Recover as One o Bayanihan 2 ay magbibigay ng pag-asa sa marami pong nawalan ng trabaho at sa marami pong negosyo na nagsasara. We will not give up. We are prepared for the long haul, and we will win this war. As we learn to adapt, innovate, and manage in this time of COVID-19, let us use this moment to proactively plan and implement a roadmap to a new and better Philippine society. Sa lahat po sa inyo na nag-attend ng sesyon, nag-attend araw-araw, sa ating majority leader na nag-lead ng Defeat COVID Committee, sa ating economic team na gumawa ng economic stimulus, sa ating finance at appropriation team dito sa Bayanihan 2. Sa lahat po sa inyo, nandito sa harap ko ang Committee on Agriculture at talagang gusto niyang i-fast track ang lahat ng kailangan sa agriculture. Sa Committee on Health, sa Committee on Tourism, sa Basic Ed, hindi ko po maiisa-isa ngayon po, pero kayo po ay nagbibigay ng pag-asa dahil po kayo'y naghahanap ng lunas sa mga problema. One that is built on the ideal set forth in our Constitution preamble. Simply put, we want to put up a kind of society where we can all say, we love the Philippines. We love being Filipino. That's why we need a proactive plan. And ano po ang paradigm ng plano na to? One that is built on the ideal set forth by our Constitution's preamble. Simple lang po nakalagay dito. Of a just and humane society that will promote the common good, conserve and develop our patrimony, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of independence and democracy under the rule of law, a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace. Lahat po ng Pilipino naintindihan to at lahat ng Pilipino ito po ang gusto. In order to achieve this, Congress had made Bayanihan 2 more than just a reaction to the ravages of COVID-19. It is a response to the bigger challenge of remaking our society and spreading the wealth. Problema po lang, hindi lang po natin problema ang poverty. Problema din po natin, nako, konti lang ang sobrang yaman sa ating bansa at maliit pa rin ang middle class natin. At makita po natin na yung marami sa middle class natin po ay galing sa pera ng OFW. At pag nagkaroon ng ganitong problema, limited ang pagtulong natin sa mga OFWs na umuuwi. Our challenge of bringing out wealth from our overcrowded cities. Hindi lang po yung personal wealth o kung sino mas mayaman sa hindi. Yung disparity din po ng ating pinakamayaman na mga syudad sa mga pinakamahirap natin na municipalities. Matagal na po nagsasalita, nagpaparinig, sumisigaw, bumubulong ang ating countryside, ang rural areas. Pansinin nyo naman po kami. We should make them areas that have been neglected into underdevelopment to fertile hills and valleys of our 7,100 islands that we can be proud of. Bayanihan to recover as one is only one step, but it is a huge step. But many, many, many more steps are needed on this journey, and many, many more to bring our people to the welcome shores of safety and security. These are steps that we need to take together as partners in change, sharing the same vision for peace, progress, and prosperity. We have to put the people, their lives and livelihood, buhay at kabuhayan, first in this law. And at its center, we have placed public health, micro, small, medium enterprises, OFWs, our athletes, the creative industry, mga performing artists na lahat nawalan ng trabaho, social amelioration, mga teachers po natin na nawalan ng trabaho, mga pastor po natin na tuloy po na nagmi-minister sa flock nila, mga pare, pero wala din po pumapasok na pambayad po ng kuryente o pagbayad ng mga gastusin sa simbahan. Many, many more po na hindi ko nabanggit. Jobs, jobs, jobs. Kailangan po ng trabaho. We want Bayanihan 2 to be a living piece of legislation that will empower our industries and revitalize sectors of society that have been disseminated by the virus or were otherwise forgotten and neglected in the past. Agriculture and tourism, sectors that are essential to our economy. Grabe po ang multiplier effect ng trabaho dito. Sabi na for every 2 to 3 tourists, isang trabaho na create. Sa agriculture naman, sabi po nila, 2 out of 3 jobs in the country is related to agriculture. So can you imagine po, if agriculture grows during this time, and we can prepare for the return of tourism. Pero let's not fool ourselves. If Thailand was number 1 sa ASEAN before the pandemic, and we do nothing, how do you expect that we will be number 1 or mag-grow ang tourism? It has been growing, but it can grow in a much faster pace if we prepare, and we build, and we take the necessary action to build the industry or create the ecosystem for people to be able to invest in the industry and for it to be very attractive to foreign and local tourists. So too will the manufacturing industry, which with the right elements to create the right ecosystem or environment wherein manufacturers will return and thrive, will form the third leg in the triumvirate. These 3 sectors will form the spear tip of our recovery effort and underlies our key philosophy of putting back to work so that we can all get back on our feet. ATM. Lahat po tayo ngayon, lalo po kung kailangan ng pera sa bangko, alam yung ATM. Pero hindi po automated teller machine ang ATM na pinag-uusapan ng Kongreso. Agriculture, tourism, manufacturing. Sa buong mundo po ngayon, nagre-re-evaluate lahat ng bansa. Bakit tayo pumayag na mawala ang manufacturing sa ating bansa at mag-focus ito sa China, Vietnam, at iba pang lugar na attractive? While the laws of economics have not changed and some countries will still be better and more attractive for manufacturing, some key elements or products have to be manufactured in your country. Example po dyan is pharma or pharmaceuticals and yung PPEs. Kaya po nung naging worldwide yung pandemic, kung sino po man ang may factory o nagmamanufacture sa kanilang bansa, got ahead. Pero doon po sa nagre-rely, kahit na sabi mo Filipino-owned company yan, kung nasa Vietnam o nasa China, may difficulties in getting it here. But we have to set the tone. We have to prepare the environment na payagan at maging attractive sa mga manufacturers na bumalik sa Pilipinas. But it takes more than just a law to get things going. We need both a roadmap for familiar places we need to go and to blaze a trail out of the wilderness that we have lost. We need a pragmatic plan that can be funded and implemented immediately and effectively. And once we have this, we need everyone to be on board, carrying their weight. Nothing we do can succeed without the most crucial ingredient of national unity. And no challenge will be insurmountable if we face it, bowing our heads to God and acting in unison. At the end of the day, Bayanihan 2 is more than just an enumeration of benefits to certain sectors and industries, or an aggregation of budgets to help our kababayans, or a list of programs of different agencies. It is a reaffirmation of the spirit of cooperation and community that our race is famous for. Bayanihan is about Filipinos helping Filipinos, na sarili mong trabaho, sarili mong gawain, sarili mong interes ay itatabi mo sandali para tulungan ang kapitbahay mo in the spirit ng bayanihan. It is about reaching across geographic and political divide. It is about hope in the darkest moments and most desperate places. It is about faith in God and ourselves as His children. Finally, it is sad but true that during these times of difficult and despair, that there are still those who call themselves Filipinos but wish nothing more than this government shall fail. Wala po problema sa nagkri-criticize. In fact, marami sa nagkri-criticize, nakakatulong. Tignan niyo po yung PhilHealth. Kung hindi nyo criticize, hindi natin madidiscover ang napakalaking problema dyan at yung mga anomalya. Pero meron po iba hindi criticize para magbago eh. Meron pong iba na gustong bumaksak ang gobyerno. And while that could be political fair game during non-crisis times, di ba? Kasi ang politics naman is whoever gets the power to be able to implement a better platform. So whether election yan or a other constitutional means of getting power, that's part of politics. But during a crisis, ang pagbaksak ng gobyerno causes thousands of deaths and maybe tens of thousands of deaths. And for some, it may appear that their dark desires are coming to fruition. So pag nakikita na nagrarally po at lumalabas ang tao sa Amerika, parang, oy, pwede din sa atin dito. Tignan niyo po ang resurgence ng COVID-19 sa Amerika. Let's pray for them, for their social cohesion, for their problems, including hate and racism. Pero yung gusto nating gayahin, sapagkat tingin nyo, ito'y magdudulot ng pagbabago, sakit lang po ang idudulot nito sa atin. For it is easy to pick out the inevitable mistakes in a crisis. Yes, this government is not perfect. When you pick out these mistakes and make it part of the nature and hold it up as an example of a larger systematic collapse, hindi na po criticism ito to help. But that is a mistake, a big mistake. Filipinos will never give up, nor will we ever give in to the hopelessness that they want us to embrace. It is a mistake for people to think na pwedeng pabaksakin ang gobyerno just because meron pong imperfection. We will continue as one nation to struggle through to ourselves, but also to strive not just for survival, but for greatness amidst tribulation. Parati po yan. Pag may crisis, may great challenges, danger, but may great opportunities then. At yun po ang paghamon sa atin sa 18th Congress. How do we see, how can we view these challenges, and how can we put into legislation, into programs, ito pong mga solusyon that will leapfrog us ahead of others after the crisis. And as we speak of greatness, we are reminded of what the Bible says, that no greater love is there than when one lays down his life for another. Let us take our inspiration and motivation not from the fear of our people or of individuals, not from the adversity of some people na hindi natin kapanalig sa politika, but from the sacrifices of our frontliners, our medical and health workers, our police officers, soldiers, local government officials, governors, mayors, vice governors, vice mayors, councilors, bukals, barangay health workers, nutrition scholars, kagawads, kapitans, tanods, teachers, artists, those who prepare to deliver our food, the farmers in the field, the priests, the pastors, the imams who continue to minister to us, and the countless nameless Filipinos who keep our bodies and soul nourished. It's our opportunity to tell you, no greater love is there than one who's willing to lay down his life. Thank you. Maraming salamat po na you're risking your life every day para po sa amin, para po sa Pilipino. Let's give a hand sa ating frontliners. No? May our contribution to our recovery do justice to all of your sacrifice and be worthy offering to the Lord. We give you our word that we will continue working and we will continue to do better. In this point, I'd also like to take the minority. You have pointed out our inadequacies. You have pointed out pag may mali sa legislation. You have helped make it better. But you have acted with us in one spirit. So together, the majority and minority have produced good laws. Pero we have to do better. We have to do it faster. May God heal our land and may God bless the Philippines. Majority Leader.
Maraming salamat, Speaker Alan Tita Cayetano, and thank you for your leadership. Move to suspend.
Session suspended.
Moy, 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 Moy. After daw yun po, tapos na. Ito ba yun?
Session resumed. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third and final reading House Bill number 6953, and I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the said measure and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. The Secretary General may proceed.
House Bill number 6953, an act providing for COVID-19 response and recovery interventions and providing mechanism to accelerate the recovery and bolster the resiliency of the Philippine economy.
The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we direct the Secretary General to call the roll for nominal voting.
Is there any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. The Secretary General may proceed.
Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 6953. Abante. Abaya. Abellanosa. Abu. Abueg Zaldivar. Abunda. Acop. Acosta. Acosta Alba. Adyong. Advincula. Agabas. Agarao. Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Bañas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabatchan, Cabrero, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Maria Laorni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas Rudis Caesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin.
Thank you. Thank you, boss.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, yung retroactive. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Honorable Gaite.
Yes, the Honorable Gaite, what is the pleasure of the distinguished gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker, vote no ang vote ng hinatong ito at papaliwanag ko ang dahilan ng aking pagboto sa panahon na tama. Salamat po.
We will call the distinguished gentleman from Bayan muna later after the result of the voting. Please proceed, Mr. Secretary General.
Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzalez Aurelio, Gonzalez Neptali, Gonzalez Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hoffer, Palos Hos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Kong Hun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Núñez Malañaon, Owaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Owano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Rieda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Savellano, Siao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tianco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call of members in consideration of House Bill number 6953. Abaya, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Aumentado, Bañas Nograles, Barzaga, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bulot, Kabatbat, Kanama, Kari, Castro France, Castro Fredinil, Chipeco, Coanco, Kua, Kulyamat, Daza, Defensor Michael, Duavit, Duterte, Elago, Farinas,
And I
Rudy Caesar.
reserve my right to explain my vote later.
Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Pablo John, Garin Janet, Ko Elisa, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson Noel, Liatson, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Mercado, Noel, Nograles 1, Ortega, Panotes, Pichay, Siao, Silverio, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, T. Alan, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Villarica, Yap Eric, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate.
My vote is no. I will explain my vote.
Suspend muna natin session. Ito lang ba pagbubukaw natin? Medical scholarship, tsaka yung better normal working conditions. On third reading, tatlo pa. Actually, for voting, kasi yung increase in bed capacity. Ayaw mo. So, apat lang. This is the first. So, 3 more. And then we adjourn. Additional reference. Meron lang reference. Meron kong pahapon. No problem. Mga report. No problem. Basta merong explanation of votes. May papel. Oo. Ano? Okay, pabayaan na natin. Lagyan mo na lang ng nasa akin na? Mag-explain ba ng votes siya? I know this one. Hindi pa tayo mag-ano. Alright, better. Or ilagay mo sa seat back. With 242 affirmative votes, 6 negative votes, and 0 abstention, House Bill number 6953, an act providing for COVID-19 response and recovery interventions and providing mechanism to accelerate the recovery and bolster the resiliency of the Philippine economy, providing funds therefore and for other purposes, is hereby approved on third and final reading. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we allow the members who intimated upon the Majority Leader that they will explain their votes. We have already the list of the representatives who wish to make a manifestation on or explanation of their votes. Mr. Speaker, however, I would like to inform the body who are in the Zoom platform that we are experiencing technical difficulties. We will allow them, we will call the names of the members who wishes to explain their votes. However, we would like to ask for the indulgence of the members if and when when their explanation suffers technical difficulties, and request them instead to file for a written manifestation or explanation of their votes. But we will assure, Mr. Speaker, that we will call the names of these people who manifested that they will explain their votes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May we request the Secretary General to call the names of those members who wishes to explain their votes.
The Secretary General.
Honorable Abante. Honorable Abante.
Mr. Speaker, may I be allowed to explain my vote?
Yes, please proceed, distinguished minority floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, I voted yes to the measure. In fact, I have manifested my co-authorship to the measure. First of all, I'd like to commend the Speaker. I'd like to commend the principal sponsor of the measure and the leadership of the House in approving this bill, Mr. Speaker. I also would like to appreciate the sponsor of the bill for allowing us to go back to the interpellation so we could be able to at least scrutinize and manifest, Mr. Speaker, some questions that need to be answered concerning the measure to the satisfaction of the minority rather than our own consternation. Mr. Speaker, I know that the amount that has been approved in the measure is not enough. 162 billion, Mr. Speaker, that we have approved for this measure is not even close to what we would like to achieve. Considering that the effectivity of this measure would be until December 31, I am praying, Mr. Speaker, and hoping that this pandemic will not last until December. Because I know that if this pandemic will not last until December, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the amount that we have put into the Bayanihan 2 would be quite sufficient. And also, Mr. Speaker, the request that I would like to make is this. We have given 20 billion peso budget for the DOH. I would like to ask, Mr. Speaker, perhaps this can be discussed in the bicameral committee, that part of the budget that was given to the DOH would also be given to the DOST because they have been having clinical trials, Mr. Speaker, on some of the herbal medicines that would address the coronavirus. Sila po ngayon, Mr. Speaker, ang DOST ay nagtatanghal o nag-experiment ng mga herbal medicines na makakatulong po sa mga apektado ng coronavirus. Ganyan din, Mr. Speaker, sana po ay makita rin po natin ang pangangailangan ng TESDA sapagkat habang meron po tayong pandemic, this will be on December 31, ay dapat po hindi humihinto ang TESDA sa kanilang pag-training upang magkaroon po ng trabaho. Ang mga nawawalan po ng trabaho, ng training, lalo na po sa ating mga OFW na libo-libo nagbalik, na sila po ay makapagtrabaho uli dito sa ating bansa. I would like to commend, Mr. Speaker, the 50 billion peso given to the MSMEs. Ibig sabihin yan, meron na pong pondo upang ipahiram sa ating mga maliliit na negosyante habang meron tayong pandemic na ito. Ito lang po, Mr. Speaker, mga ilan na nais kong balangkasin at I would like to emphasize, once again, I want to thank the leadership for allowing us to have this Bayanihan 2 measure, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
The chair would like to thank the distinguished minority floor leader. The Secretary General may call on the others who wish to explain their votes, but may I remind the members to please limit their explanation to only 3 minutes. Please proceed, Madam Secretary General.
The Honorable Belmonte.
Proceed, please, Honorable Belmonte.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, the 6th District of Quezon City votes yes to the Bayanihan Bill with much hesitation. I hesitate not because I feel that it should not be passed, but because I feel that it is not enough. The Arise Bill, drafted by the best economic minds in Congress and worked on by most of us over the past 6 months during the height of the pandemic, lays down plans to protect our economy by pushing for a stimulus plan and recovery package that proposes an infusion of 708 billion for this year alone to protect our small and medium-scale enterprises, jumpstart our economy, and protect jobs. Under the Arise Bill, we are projecting a budget of 1.3 trillion for 3 years. The Bayanihan 2, on the other hand, only provides for a budget of 162 billion, which is way below the proposed amount in the Arise Bill. It is unfortunate that our financial managers are only willing to allot this little to protect our economy. Having said that, I feel that while I am not too satisfied with the package that is being offered, it is still better than nothing. And with the budget deliberations coming up soon, I look forward to a national budget for 2021 that provides a clearer and more substantial plan for our recovery as a nation above all else, and for a concrete plan that is designed for our public funds to be used to ensure that we focus our healing and on leaving absolutely no one behind. We have proved that regardless of our party or personal politics, members of Congress are ready to come together to respond to the needs of our constituencies during this pandemic. The 6th District of Quezon City casts its yes vote to the Bayanihan 2 bill with the fervent hope that it will be enough to power us past the next few months, and looking forward to concrete plans for a better 2021 for our nation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, distinguished gentleman from the 6th District of Quezon City. The Secretary General may proceed, please.
The Honorable Bordado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, there is no denying that this pandemic has forced the world to change its course. Our day-to-day activities have been altered such that all our efforts are now geared towards responding to this health emergency. Our planned activities contained in the General Appropriations Act can no longer be pursued as usual. The focus has been shifted to address the issues brought by this pandemic. At the outset, Mr. Speaker, I question the granting of additional powers to the President, underscoring the need for our leader to focus on the problem at hand and not to be distracted by matters already handled by various departments and instrumentalities under his authority. I never objected and will never object against the social amelioration program. It is my conviction, Mr. Speaker, that our people, particularly the marginalized ones, must be extended financial and material assistance in order to survive the hazards, complexities, and rigors of the COVID-19 pandemic. I also welcome the creation of Accelerating Recovery to intensify Solidarity and Equity Incorporated, otherwise known as ARISE Incorporated, aimed at assisting businesses and industries affected by the pandemic. In my view, however, Mr. Speaker, we need a reprogramming of our 2020 budget to redirect the focus on health emergency response. The shift in spending priority must not only be contained in another law, but must be reflected in the national budget. Moreover, the identification of new sources of revenue necessitates the crafting of a supplemental budget to specify the items where these funds will be spent. Notwithstanding such misgivings, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the interventions laid down in the proposed measure are badly needed by our countrymen at this very critical stage. I am therefore voting yes to the passage of the Bayanihan 2 bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, distinguished Representative Bordado. Madam Secretary General, please proceed.
The Honorable Brosas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, hangad namin sa Gabriela Women's Party ang konkretong tugon sa mga batayang kahilingan ng kababaihan at mamamayan ngayon sa ilalim ng pandemya at malubhang krisis. Subalit hindi taglay nitong Bayanihan to Recover as One Act o BARO ang hinihinging tugon sa hamong hinaharap natin ngayon. BARO scrimps on cash aid and is vague on much-needed health interventions and perpetuates the failed neoliberal model of economic recovery through loan-financed infrastructure and foreign investments. Sa madaling salita, binibihisan lang ng BARO ang kapos, militarista at tagilid na tugon ng rehimeng Duterte sa pandemyang COVID-19. Sa ilalim ng BARO, walang katiyakan na pupuntuhan ang pagtataas ng kapasidad ng ating public healthcare system. Kahit pa umaapaw na ng mga pasyente ang ating mga ospital at lagpas 110,000 na ang positibo sa COVID-19. Gaya ng Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, Baho 1, wala pa rin pagpondo para sa libreng mask. Hindi nakatitiyak at garantiya na magkakaroon ng libreng mask test kung sa sinasabi. Maayos na contact tracing at isolation at treatment na siyang pinakakailangan ngayon para maagapan ang lalong pagkalat ng COVID-19. Walang naging paghilom sa Bayanihan to Heal as One, kaya paano natin naasahan ang recovery sa panukalang ito? Higit sa lahat, walang konkretong tugon ang panukalang ito sa panawagan ng mga manggagawa at magsasaka na siyang pinaka-apektado ng pandemya at krisis pang-ekonomiya. Kailangan pontuhan ang paid quarantine leaves at magkaroon ng mas komprehensibong social protection programs sa informal na sektor at sa mga nawalan ng trabaho. Sinabi na ipinagbabawal ang phase-out ng jeepney pero hindi naman inilahad kung paano sa aktwal gagarantiyahan ang pabalik pasada ng libo-libong tsuper na ngayon ngay namamalimos para maibsan ng gutom. Kailangan paglaanan ng pondo ang mga programang magtitiyak ng seguridad ng pagkain habang sinasakduluhan ng ating mga magsasaka. NFA palay procurement, agricultural subsidies, post-harvest facilities development program at paglinang ng sistemang irigasyon. Sa ganitong paraan, hindi tayo magiging palasa sa agricultural imports. Lalo pat hindi predictable ang trade policies ng karating bansa dahil sa pandemya at pagbibigay prioridad nila sa kanilang food security. Kailangan nating tingnan ang agricultural development bilang mahalagang salik ng economic recovery sa halip na umaasa sa pagtutuloy ng mga napurnadang build projects na magtataboy sa mga mahihirap na komunidad. Today, 162 billion appropriations tag, pero hardly reflects the billions in foreign borrowings made by the Duterte regime, supposedly for COVID-19 response. This is embarrassingly a very small amount that hoists a false sense of recovery amid the nosedive of the local economy. In fact, sa ilan pong mga pag-uusap namin, sinasabi namin na ang talagang pangunahin is to strengthen public health system, expand social protection, and build the national economy. Ang example po ng strengthening public health system ay free mass testing fund, Epidemiology Bureau Public Health Program, intensified COVID-19 contact tracing program, mass hiring of health personnel, ensuring PPE supply, COVID-19 testing facilities, free COVID-19 treatment program, COVID-19 vaccine development research program, UPNIH research grant, free cremation services for COVID-19 related cases. So, Mr. Speaker, hindi ang panukalang batas na ito ang tugon sa kagyat na pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan. Ilang buwan ng lugmok ng kabuhayan. Ang kailangan nating tugunan ay ang pangangailangan pangkalusugan, ayuda at kabuhayan at pagtanggol. Pagtanggol, hindi ang pagyurak sa karapatan. Ito ang hiling ng kababaihan at ng taong bayan. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Marami pong salamat sa inyo. Kinatawan ng Gabriela Women's Party List. Proceed, please.
The Honorable Castro Franz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I vote a resounding no to House Bill 6953. Last March, Mr. Speaker, this Congress gave the President tremendous powers purportedly to address the various issues brought about by COVID-19. Today, this chamber is supposed to give the President what he wants. Again, this despite the fact that he and his IATF, the main body for the COVID response, has failed to show that he had indeed used his powers to address COVID-19 and alleviate the sufferings of our people. The President and the IATF have failed to implement the medical strategies to stop infection and spread of COVID-19. Food dragging on mass testing, nearly zero contact tracing capacity, insufficient testing isolation, and treatment facilities and centers. They have failed to deliver urgent financial, food and non-food aid to millions of families who struggled for over 5 months, living without job and income. And far from beating down the coronavirus, Mr. Speaker, this administration is using a penal provision of the law to beat down the people, stifling free public discourse and dissent. Bakit higit sa 130,000 Filipino na ang infected with COVID-19? At higit 2,000 na ang namamatay. Bakit, quote-unquote, tip of the iceberg lang ito, gawa ng kawalan ng mass testing? Bakit higit na 5,000 frontier na o frontliners na ang nagpositibo? 40 na ang namatay at higit na napakabagal ng kompensasyon para sa kanila. Bakit ang sitwasyon ng Pilipinas ay isa sa pinakamalala sa rehiyon, maging sa buong mundo? Bakit mabagal at tinitipid ang ayuda? Saan napunta ang bilyones na hinutok mula sa 2019 and 2020 budgets? Saan napunta ang bilyong inutang? With the great emergency powers comes great responsibility. Ika nga sa comics, pero mandato rin ito ng ating batas at konstitusyon. May great responsibility ang ehekutibo na sagutin ang mga tanong na ito, na kailangan nating tapatan dito sa Kongreso ng great responsibility, na ipapasa lamang ang panukala matapos matiyak na tinupad ng ehekutibo ang responsibilidad niya. Ngunit, Mr. Speaker, sa tindi ng nais ng Kongreso ito na ibigay muli ang hilig ng Pangulo, sinarahan ang pinto ng accountability. Kapag simpleng guro, katakot-takot na hirap at sandamakmak na dokumento ang kailangang ipasa bago mabigyan ng PBB at iba pang mga benepisyo at bonus. Dapat niyang patunayan na deserving siyang makatanggap ng benepisyong dapat nakarapatan at otomatikong ibibigay sa kanya. Ngunit pagdating sa presidente, hindi natin dinadaan sa katulad ng proseso ng pananagutan. Kahit bilyones na pera ng taong bayan at buhay at kaligtasan ng milyong Pilipino ang nakataya. Congress should never give sanction to great irresponsibility at this. Dagdag sa lahat ng ito, Mr. Speaker, walang sinabi ang panibagong pinaprobahang batas ng Pangulo ng House Bill 6953 ukol sa pagbubuhos ng sapat na pondo para palakasin ang public health system. Bibigyan ba ang mamamayan ng free treatment, free mass testing, seryosong contact tracing, at iba pang medical solutions? Magkakaroon ba ng bago at sapat na ayuda bukod sa dati ng programang AIX, TUPAD, Cash for Work, at iba pa? May kasiguruhan na ba na hindi mauwi ang social amelioration sa pork barrel at patronage politics? Mas makatotohanang programa laban sa mga malawakang unemployment? Ang sagot ng House Bill 6953, Mr. Speaker, ay wala. Kaya ang kinatawang ito ay bumoboto ng no sa House Bill 6953. Marami pong salamat.
Maraming salamat din po sa inyo, ang ating mahal na kinatawan ng ACT Teachers Party List. Proceed please, Madam Secgen.
The Honorable Elago.
Thank you, Speaker. Indeed, there is a pressing need to act with sense of urgency to pass a recovery plan. But we must also ensure, as representatives of the people, that we are able to take steps in the right direction. Kaya po, naninindigan ang Kabataan Party List, Ginoong Speaker, na kinakailangan po muna natin ng full accounting sa bayanihan to deal as one report. Total releases related to COVID-19 on Bayanihan 1 balloons to more than 370 billion pesos. With more borrowings to fund the pandemic response and the recovery plan, government debt reaches the 9 trillion mark. Unemployment rises to a record high as the economy dips to its lowest in history amid the one of the longest in the world. Ito po ang ating magiging gabay upang matiyak ng ating mga susunod na hakbang ay magiging epektibo sa paglaban sa COVID-19 habang sinusuportahan ang pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan. Ito po ay ating upang maiwasan rin ang sa Baho Act kung saan ito po ay mabilis nang naipasa, nagdagdag ng emergency powers na kahit wala pang komprehensibong plano, kaya hindi rin ito nagbunga ng mabilis na aksyon. Hindi lang po naging mabagal ang pamamahagi ng ayuda sa ilalim ng Social Amelioration Program, naging puno rin ito ng anomalya. Nababaon po sa utang ang ating bayan habang lumalalim rin ang pasakit ng gutom at kahirapan, dulot ng milyong-milyong nawala ng trabaho, kabuhayan at mga negosyong persahang nagsara. Imbes na bumagal at mapigil ang virus, kumalat pa po ito at dumami pa ang aktibong kaso. Nagbigay din po tayo ng suporta sa panawagan ng ating Human Resources for Health na hindi lang magkaroon ng time off. Ang kinakailangan na recalibration pagdating sa kabuuan na pandemic response na pinamumunuan ng ating gobyerno kasama mamamayang Pilipino. Kailangan nagugulin ang pondo ng tama at naaayon sa pangangailangan ng krisis sa kalusugang pampubliko. Gayon din po ang ating ng apektadong sektor. Ang representasyon na ito ay naging aktibo sa pagbibigay liwanag at pagtutulak ng mga kinakailangan pong dating sa edukasyon. Mayroon po tayong nasa 600 million na education subsidy para sa basic at higher education. Ngunit nababahala po tayo doon sa pondong ito na wala pang tiyak na breakdown kung paano po ang magiging hatian sa panahon na marami na pong nag-aalala kung paano sila makakapag-fulfill ng mga kinakailangan nila para sa blended learning modalities sa darating na pasukan na August 24. Nasa higit 6 million pa po ang hindi nakakapag-enroll at kung paano sila matutulungan tiyak na makapagpatuloy ng pag-aaral sa gitna ng pandemic. Malaki po sana ang maitutulong kung nailinaw natin ang breakdown, gayon din ang kapupuntahan ng pondo na ating nilalaan. There can be no clear path forward in the fight against COVID-19 without openness, transparency, and respect for human rights. Thus, Mr. Speaker, we reiterate the call to include the youth, our students, learners, our representatives of civil society, organizations in pushing for a humane, effective, comprehensive, and participatory approach to COVID-19. And as for the education sector, Ginoong Speaker, kinakailangan po ang ating inclusive na educational alternatives dahil po sa tinutulak na blended distance learning modalities. Ang suporta para sa internet connectivity at sa gadget ay dapat malinaw na nakakaabot sa mga pinakanangangailangan. Bigyan din ng diin yung pagkatuto higit sa pagbibigay ng grado. Malaki po ang magiging epekto kung paano bang magiging mabisa ang probisyon pagdating sa paglaban sa profiteering, tuition at other school fees sa ating mga eskwelahan. Pangalawa ay ang pagkakaroon ng accessible na education, ang pagtitiyak ng limitasyon sa mga pampublikong paaralan at pagpapalawak pa ng naaabot ng ating mga tulong pampinansyal sa mga estudyante, guro at kawani sa edukasyon. Ano po ay ang assistance sa personnel at schools. Noon po, sa mga unang bersyon ng batas ay may malinaw na 10,000 na assistance, ngunit ito po ay hindi na nabigyan ng malinaw na figura sa ating naipasa ng batas. Pang-apat ay ang paggagarantiya ng democratic rights and welfare ng lahat po ng member community mula sa magulang, teaching at non-teaching personnel, pagsuporta sa pangailangan kalusugang pangkatawan, pangkaisipan at pandamdamin ng mga estudyante, guro at kawani. At panglima ay ang paghahanda para sa safe reopening ng schools. Ang pagpapatupad ng minimum health standards sa mga paaralan, pagpapatupad ng libreng mass testing, ang pagtitiyak ng pagkakaroon ng klinika na may sapat na kagamitan, supply ng gamot at health and sanitation personnel, at pagbibigay po ng na silid-aralan, palikuran, kantina at mga pasilidad sa paaralan. At dahil Ginoong Speaker, tayo po ay humaharap sa krisis ng kalusugang publiko na napakatindi rin po ng epekto sa karapatan sa edukasyon. Kaya hangad po ng representasyon na ito ang pagkakaroon ng tunay na komprehensibo, epektibo, demokratiko at participatory na approach sa paglaban sa COVID-19. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker.
Maraming salamat din po sa inyo sa ating bunsong kinatawan ng ating Kamara. Thank you. Madam Secretary General.
The Honorable Kulyamat.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. No ang boto ng kinatawang ito sa Bayanihan 2 dahil nangunguna ang ating bansa sa Timog Silangang Asya at pagdating sa dami ng mga kaso ng COVID. Ito ay sa kabila ng malawak na quarantine measures na ipinatupad sa iba't ibang anyo at pangalan. Gayon din, ito ay sa kabila ng napakalaking pera na inilalaan ng Kongreso ng Bayanihan 1. Kambal ng pagdagdag ng dagdag kapangyarihan para sa Pangulo. Isa lang ang ibig sabihin nito, isang malaking kabiguan ang Bayanihan 1 at isang malaking kamalian ang pagbibigay ng malaking pera sa dagdag kapangyarihan kay Pangulong Duterte doon sa Bayanihan 1. Bakit pa ito dadagdagan pa ng Part 2 kung malaking sablay man? Malaking sablay naman ang Part 1. Ang tamang solusyon ay fundamental na pagbabago sa orientasyon ng ating pagtugon sa pandemya, hindi ang pagpapatuloy ng dating kabiguan. Nagdudumilat ang saligang problema ng naging tugon ng Administrasyong Duterte sa pandemya. Pangunahing militarista at pagwawalang bahala sa buhay sa kalusugan ng nakakaraming masa. Walang mass testing, inutil na contact tracing, makupad at napakaliit na ayuda para sa masa at militarisadong pagtugon sa pandemya. Ganito ang Bayanihan 1 at ipagpapatuloy lamang ng Bayanihan 2 o baka mas malala pa. Malaking kabiguan lamang ang hinaharap ng Bayanihan 2 sapagkat wala itong nilalaman na kakakitaan ng fundamental na pagbabago sa orientasyon ng ating pagtugon sa pandemya. Napakaliit pa nga ng pundo na inilaan para sa pangangailangan ng medikal at ayuda. Paano ito tutugunan? Ang ngayon ay napakalawak at napakaraming kaso ng COVID. At sa ngayon ay lumala at lumalawak pa na gutom ng nakararaming Pilipino. Wala ding mabigat binanggit na Bayanihan 2 sa pagpapatalsik ng mga militar at mga walang kakayahan na pamunuan ang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan laban sa pandemya. Sa Bayanihan 2, kung ang gagawin ni Pangulong Duterte ay ang parehong militaristang tugon sa pangunguna ng mga general, patuloy lamang na magmamarcha ang bawat Pilipino na nakapiring ang mga mata tungo sa tiyak na kapahamakan. Kaya no ang boto ng representasyon ito sa Bayanihan 2. Ito lamang, Ginang Speaker, mga kapwa kinatawan, magandang hapon.
Maraming salamat po sa inyo at higit sa lahat, maraming salamat po sa pagtupad sa inyong oras. Madam Secretary General.
The Honorable Gaite.
Mr. Speaker, sa ating mga kapwa mambabatas, sa ating mga kapwa manggagawa sa gobyerno, at ang ating mga mamamayang Pilipino. Sa tinuntungan ng Bayanihan to Recover as One Bill o BARO o Bayanihan 2 ay papunta ng sa tinaguriang recovery, quote-unquote. Ito yung phase ng pandemya ito. Sang-ayon ang kinatawang ito sa magandang recovery mula sa panghambalos ng COVID-19 sa ating ekonomiya. Sang-ayon ang bayan muna sa hangaring ito. Recovery mula sa laksang trabaho, sa kabuhayang nawala para sa mahigit 7 milyong mamamayan at dumarami pa. Sang-ayon ang kinatawang ito na dating unionista sa direksyong nais tahakin. Recovery ng ating healthcare system na sadyang ginumog sa dami ng kaso ng COVID-19, liban pa sa non-COVID na sakit. Ngunit, nabalahaw ang paghihilom at malayo at maliit ang planong recovery sa realidad. Patuloy pa rin tumataas ang mga kaso ng COVID sa ating bansa sa kabila ng militarized na lockdown na hindi lamang kumitil sa kabuhayan ng mga gagawang Pilipino kundi nilabag pang mga karapatang tao. Sa kabila ng mga panawagang solusyong medikal at sa trilyong pisong inutang ng Administrasyong Duterte, hindi pa rin napaunlad ang kapasidad ng ating healthcare system sa antas na kayang ma-accommodate sa pagdagsa ng mga severe o critical cases. Overwork at underpaid pa rin ang ating mga healthcare workers na hanggang ngayon na hindi pa rin sapat ang pinaka-basic na PPEs. Kulang na kulang ang bilang ng healthcare workers na kinukuha ng ating pamahalaan. Hindi rin nila nakukuha ang karampatang mga benepisyong na ayon sa kanila kahit ang mga hazard pay at risk allowances na nakasaad na sa Bayanihan Bill as One Act. Wala pa rin mass testing at kulang pa rin ang contact tracing na siyang mga pinakamabisang hakbang upang makontain ang pandemya patay sa karanasan ng mga bansang nagtagumpay dito tulad halimbawa ng New Zealand, Vietnam at Thailand. dagdag pa ang mabilis ng pagbulusok ng ating ekonomiya ngayon na umaabot mahigit sa negative 16% na bagsak ng ating GDP o Gross Domestic Product growth mula sa positibong teritoryo noong nakaraang taon. Sa madaling salita, nasa gitna pa rin tayo ng medikal at ekonomiyang krisis kahit na isinabatas na ang naunang Bayanihan to Heal as One Act noong Marso 2020. Ito ay habang nakakaahon na ng bahagya ang iba nating karating na bansa sa ASEAN na humarap din sa kalimpunan ng krisis at sila'y naglaan ng dihamak na mas malaking pondo para sa kanilang COVID response. Kung gayon ang pinakawastong hakbang sana ay una, maglaan ng sapat na pondo para sa mass testing at pagpapataas ng kapasidad ng ating healthcare system. Halimbawa, sa halagang 34 billion pesos lamang ay kaya na sana makapag-testing ng higit kumulang 10 milyong Pilipino batay sa testing rates mismo ng PhilHealth. Katitig lamang ito kung kumpara sa kabuang pondong hinihingi ng bill na ito kumpara sa 50 billion na nakalaan para sa credit stimulus at capital infusion sa mga bangko at mga GFIs. Kaugnay nito, ang perang nakalaan para sa treatment ng COVID-19 cases ay dapat nang idiretso sa mga ospital lalo't batbat ang katiwalian at korupsyon ang PhilHealth. Pangalawa, kailangan ng full accounting mula sa mga gastos at inutang ng pamahalaan para sa Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Napakma ng kasabihang aanhin pa ang dabo kung patay na ang kabayo sa napakabagal na pamamahagi ng ayuda. Hindi pa tapos ang pamamahagi ng SAP second tranche na kung tutusin ay dapat natapos na noong Mayo pa nitong taong ito. Wala pa rin accounting sa estado ng Dole ACAP na para sana sa libu-libong mga OFWs na nawalan ng trabaho at nais nang makabalik sa bansa. Pangatlo, kailangan ng mas mataas na pondo na ayuda, lalo kung pinangangatawanan ng administrasyon ito na nasa recovery ang ating bansa. Sadyang kapos na kapos ang pondong nakalaan para sa SAP, AICS at tupad na nasa 18 billion pesos lamang. Hindi rin sapat na magmisto ng pork barrel ang social amelioration na siyang pinagmumulan rin na matinding korupsyon at katiwalian. Panghuli, kailangan bigyan pansin ang unemployment benefits para sa manggagawang Pilipino. Lalo't umabot na sa record high na 17.7% ang kawalang trabaho sa ating bansa. Dapat itaas ang unemployment benefits sa antas na nakabubuhay at sasapat sa pangangailangan ng manggagawang Pilipino. Dapat din mabigyan, hindi lamang ang manggagawa sa pribado at pampublic sektor, kundi ang informal sector workers na patuloy na nanawagan sa 10 bilyong piso kada buwan na subsidyo mula sa gobyerno. Panghuling, Mr. Speaker, mga kasamahan ko sa Kongreso, hindi kailanman pwedeng gamiting dahilan ang pandemya o anumang uri ng national emergency upang bitawan ng pamahalaan at ang pananagutan nitong protektahan ang karapatan at kabuhayan ng mamamayan ito. Unahin natin ang kapakanan ng mga mahihirap at inaapi, mga magsasaka at manggagawa upang umangkop ang mga polisiyong pinatutupad natin sa Kongreso nito. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa akin.
Maraming salamat po ang kinatawan ng Bayan Muna Party List. Madam Secretary.
The Honorable Zarate.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Magandang hapon mo sa ating lahat. Bumuboto ng no ang kinatawang ito sa House Bill number 6953 o Bayanihan to Recover as One dahil naniniwala ang kinatawang ito na bigo ang panukalang batas na ito na dinggin ang panawagan ng ating mamamayan. Sinasabi na ang panukalang batas na ito, Ginoong Speaker, ay kadugtong ng Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. Kung tayo ay magbabalik tanaw kung ano ang ginawa ng RA 11469 nitong nakalipas na mga buwan, iisa lang ang ating masusuma. Bigo ang Bayanihan to Heal as One Act para paghilumin ang bansa sa krisis na pinalala ng pandemya ng COVID-19. Wala pa ring libreng mass testing, napakabagal ng contact tracing, ayudang buwanang naantala at hindi protektado ang mga healthcare workers, lalong-lalo na ang ating mga frontline healthcare workers. Ang plano ng Administrasyong Duterte ay hindi gumawa ng plano laban sa krisis sa pandemya at maghintay na lamang ng bakuna galing sa ibang bansa. Ang malala pa ay iniasa ng pamahalaan ang mass testing at pagpapagamot sa ating mga mamamayan sa isang korap na institusyon na tulad ng PhilHealth. Imbis na idiretso sa mga ospital ang pondo, sa kabilang banda, militarismo, panunupil at paninis ang naging tugon ng Administrasyong Duterte sa pandemya. Imbis na doktor at mga eksperto ang mangunguna sa pagtugon sa national health crisis na ito, pinagpupugaran ng mga dating militar at mga general ang IATF at ang mga ahensya ng ating pamahalaan. Ginoong Speaker, simula pa lamang ng pandemyang ito ay hindi na pinakikinggan ng administrasyon ang taong bayan at maging ang mga eksperto sa medisina at siyensya. Magpahanggang ngayon, dumadami ang mga Pilipinong nagkakasakit at namamatay dahil sa COVID-19 at sa kapabayaan ng ating pamahalaan. Istulang mas pinahalagahan pa rin ng administrasyon ang ekonomiya kaysa sa buhay at kalusugan ng mamamayang Pilipino. Pinatutunayan rin, Mr. Speaker, na ang aksyon ng administrasyon nitong nakalipas na mga buwan na hindi naman talaga kailangan ng kapangyarihang i-reprogram, i-reallocate at i-realign ang items sa General Appropriations Act of 2020 na ibinigay ng Kongreso sa pamamagitan ng Republic Act 11469. At ngayon ay gusto pa nga nating i-extend sa pamamagitan ng panukalang batas na ito. Sa katunayan, ay kalaki naman ng pondo na ginamit sa nagdaang 5 buwan ay nagmula sa pooled savings ng mga nakalipas na mga taon. Hindi ginamit ang kapangyarihang ito upang ihinto pansamantala ang mga proyekto at programa upang matugunan ng lubos ang malalang krisis na ito na pinalala pa nga ng pandemya ng COVID-19. Mayroong sapat na pondo ang Pilipinas pero pinili ng Duterte administration na ilubog ang mamamayang Pilipino sa utang. Sinabi rin, Ginoong Speaker, ng mga nagpapanukala ng batas na ito na ang layunin ng bayanihan to recover as one ay hindi patungo sa better normal, kung hindi mag-bounce back lamang sa luma at nabubulok na normal. Hindi dito kinikilala na matagal nang bumabagsak ang ekonomiyang nakaasa sa dayuhang pamumuhunan at remittances ng ating mga overseas Filipinos at pinabilis lamang ng pandemya ng COVID-19 ang pagbulusok nito. Kaya bilang panghuli at muli, Ginoong Speaker, inirehisto ng kinatawang ito na dapat dinggin ang panawagan ng bayan. Free mass testing, ngayon na. Ayuda, ibigay na. Solusyong medikal, hindi militar. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa akin.
Thank you. Maraming salamat po ang ating representante ng bayan ng the Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up additional reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of measures on first reading, as well as communications and resolutions. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Nasaan na yan? Ito. Proceed.
Additional reference of business resolutions. House Resolution 1113, resolution urging the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the alleged rampant corruption and mismanagement in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation that may lead to its financial collapse to the detriment of the Filipino people and our fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Representative Villafuerte.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1114, resolution directing the appropriate House committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the alleged corruption and fund management controversies that hound the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation with the end view of instituting necessary reforms for the effective and transparent administration of the National Health Insurance Program. Representative Villanueva Eduardo and Rivera.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1115, a resolution urging the House Committee on Appropriations, the Department of Health, and the Department of Budget and Management to accommodate appropriations amounting to 100 billion pesos for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccine. Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Resolution 1116, a resolution expressing profound condolences of the House of Representatives on the demise of former Senator and Manila Mayor Alfredo Fred he called him Representative Lopez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1117, a resolution convoying the deepest sympathies of the House of Representatives of the Republic of the Philippines to the Republic of Lebanon and the victims of the catastrophic explosions that occurred in its capital city of Beirut on 4th August 2020. Representative Hofer.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports. Report of the Committee on Legislative Franchises. Report number 406. Representative Alvarez Franz and Gatchalian.
To the Committee on Rules.
Next page. Report of the Committee on Higher and Technical Education and Committee on Appropriation on House Bill number 7336. Representative Go Mark, Yap Eric, and Mercado.
To the Committee on Rules.
Report number 406 of the Committee on Higher Technical Education and the Committee on Appropriations on House Bill number 7338. Representative Go Mark, Yap Eric, and Barba.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third and final reading House Bill number 6756. And I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the measure and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? The Chair hears none. The Secretary General may proceed.
House Bill number 6756, an act establishing a medical scholarship and return service. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 6756. Abante, Baya, Bellanosa, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Jong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Bersaga, Bascug Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Co Angelica, Co Elizalde, Cuanco, Collante, Crisologo, Cuba, Cuaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Montalia, De Maporo Abdullah, De Maporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian, Ebcas Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice,
Mr. Speaker, my vote is yes, and I will reserve my right to explain my vote later. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gacetaya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Go Roseta, Gico, Gullias, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Javier, Alusos, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Kong Hun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losotan, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Magunda Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez, Walalyaon, Ominal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Ferdinand, Romualdez, Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagar Barria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Savellano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, Si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva, Brother Eddie, Villanueva, Noel, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call. Abaya, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez, Pantaleon, Amatong, Aumentado, Banyas Nograles, Barzaga, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bulot, Kabatbat, Kanama, Kari, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Tipeco, yes to all na. Coangco, Kua, Daza, Defensor Michael, Tuavit, Duterte, Fariñas, Rudy Caesar, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Gaite, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garin Janet, Ko Elisa, Kong Hun, Labad Labad, Lacson Noel, Liachon, Mark Coleta, Mendoza, Mercado, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Ortega, Panotes, Pichay, Silverio, Singson, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, T. Alan, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Villarica, Yap Eric, Zarate.
Meron pa. Wala, okay lang. Hindi, okay lang. Hindi, actually, katapos na to after. Nandito naman si Jun, may kasama ka naman. Fake lang. Hindi nakalimutan. Okay lang yun, tita. Wala namang problema. Wala namang load. Thanks, tita. Thank you for your concern. Tita.
Sharky, okay daw, sabi ni Jeff. Okay. All right. Okay. With 245 voting in the affirmative, 0 negative, and 0 abstention, House Bill number 6756, an act establishing a medical scholarship and return service, is hereby approved on third and final reading. The Secretary General, I think, may call on those who would wish to explain their votes.
Explanation of vote on House Bill number 6756, Honorable Elago.
The distinguished lady from Kabataan Party List is hereby recognized.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Ang Kabataan Party List, kasama po ng Makabayan Bloc, ay bumoto sang-ayon sa House Bill 6756, ang pagtatatag ng Medical Scholarship at Return Service Program para sa mga estudyante ng medisina. Napapanahon po ang hakbang na ito upang palawigin ang access sa medical education sa kalagayan na 8 lamang po sa ating state universities and colleges ang nag-grant ng education, ng degree sa medisina, gayon din po, kalakhan ng mga estudyante sa medisina nakapasok po sa pribadong paaralan, kung saan nasa 100,000 hanggang 200,000 po ang tuition at other school fees kada semestre. At ito po ang isa sa nagiging balakid para hikayatin ang mas marami pang mga estudyante, mga kabataan at kababayan natin na magpunta sa professional na career sa medisina. Sa ating pong pagsuporta, hangad din po natin sa pagpapatuloy ng pagpapaunlad ng bill na ito. This representation reiterates the need to harmonize all existing scholarships for medicine. We need to ensure the continuity of the cash grant for medical students in state universities and colleges. Sa kasalukuyan po ay libre ang mga med student natin sa 8 state medical schools at nababahala po sila na ang pagpasa nito ay ang pagpigil nung cash grant na ito sa mga SUCs. Kaya kinakailangan po natin yung tiyak ng Ginoong Speaker. Ang pangalawa po ay ang pagkakaroon ng hiwalay pa at dagdag na return service ng kaiba pa doon sa kasalukuyan ng return service agreement ng mga state medical schools, katulad ng UP Manila na meron na nito. Pangatlo, Ginoong Speaker, ay ang pagsasama sa residency training bilang parte ng return service program. Meron na po tayong mga medical schools na isinasa praktika ito, kaya mainam na pag-aralan po natin mabuti yung kanilang mga modelo para ma-encourage din yung mas marami pang application dito sa Med Scholarship at Return Service Program. Pang-apat ay hinggil po sa mga provision tungkol sa disqualification ng mga scholar doctors. Naninindigan po tayo na sapat na ang mga admission at retention requirements at policies na meron ang kanya-kanyang mga medical institutions, educational institutions para asang-ayon po sa kanilang values, academic freedom at mandato ng pampubliko, pampribado ba na med school. Ang panglima po ay ang pagtitiyak ng security of tenure sa ating mga scholar doctors. Bagamat nakalagay po sa bill ang role ng Department of Health sa pagbubuo ng pangkabuoang plano para sa human resources for health at paggawa ng mga plantilla positions, kailangan po na mas palakasin natin ang provision na ito para tiyak na ang ating mga scholar doctors ay makakapagpatuloy ng kanilang serbisyo sa mga komunidad kung saan po sila naka-assign. At panghuli, ang Ginoong Speaker, ay ang pagpapalakas din ng provision para po sa safety and security at protection po ng rights at mekanismo bilang suporta dito para sa mga doktor at scholar doctors. Ito po ay isa dahilan ng mga bilang ng mga pamamaslang sa hanay ng mga municipal health doctors. Tayo po ay parte ng panawagan ng hustisya at pananagutan sa mga nangyaring ito at kailangan natin gawin lahat para hindi na po ito paulit pang muli. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker, at naway ito po ay magbunga ng mas marami pang hakbang sa pagpapalakas ng ating public health care system, proteksyon at tamang kompensasyon sa ating mga healthcare workers, sa lahat ng mga medical at health professionals. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat din po sa inyo. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third and final reading House Bill number 6864. And I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the measure and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? The Chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved.
House Bill number 6864, an act establishing public health and environmental standards and safeguards for the better normal in the workplace, public places, and communities toward a sustainable recovery from the coronavirus disease 19, COVID-19 pandemic. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 6864. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Mentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong,
Maglo-local bills tayo.
Banyas Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Berzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabotyan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Kawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Mariela Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Coanco, Goliantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar de los Santos, Deloso Montalya, Demaporo Abdullah, Demaporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit Dohali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael III, D. Ian Paul, Ebcas Ecleo Elago Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer, Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Goed, Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goroseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halusos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa, Ko Wilton, Kong Hood, Labad-Laban, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lazatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Leola, Losotan, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangunda Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jerko, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malañaon, Waminal Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Roni, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padjernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Rimulya, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Sevillano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson Mian, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, Si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Brother Eddie, Villanueva Noel, Villaras Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call on House Bill number 6864. Abaya, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Mentado, Bañez Nograles, Barzaga, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bulot, Kabatbat, Kanama, Kari, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Coanco, Cuba, Daza, Defensor Michael, Duavit, El Lago, Fariñas, Rudy Cesar, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Gaite, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garin Janet, Ko Elisa, Kong Hun, Labad-Labad, Lacson Noel, Liachon, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Mercado, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Ortega, Panotes, Pichay, Silverio, Singson, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, T. Alan, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Villarica.
Malapit na. Malapit na. Malapit na. Yung sa local bill, mag-explain na kami yung vote ko ng mga Boss, hindi naman masusunod. Jeff. Jeff. Buti binasa ko yung wala yung pangalan ko. Saan? Oo. Of course. Of course. Ano ito ngayon? Ano gagawin? Wala na sa pagkain. So I don't need to manifest it. Di na. Lagay na lang dito sa website. Posibleng wala ako na. Yeah. Lagay mo na lang sila. Oo.
Talo ka na. Dalawa na kami.
With 242 affirmative votes, no negative, and no abstentions, House Bill 6864, an act establishing public health and environmental standards and safeguards for the better normal in the workplace, public places, and communities toward a sustainable recovery from the coronavirus disease 19, COVID-19 pandemic, is hereby approved on the third and final reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider on third and final reading House Bills number 6971 and 6972. Both are local bills increasing the bed capacity of certain hospitals. May I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the said measures and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. Secretary General.
House Bill 6971, an act converting the Schistosomiasis Control and Research Hospital in Palo, Leyte into a general hospital to be known as the Governor Benjamin T. Romualdez General Hospital and Schistosomiasis Center, increasing its bed capacity from 25 to 100, upgrading its professional healthcare services and facilities, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel and appropriating funds therefore. House Bill 6972, an act renaming the Eastern Visayas Regional Medical Center in the city of Tacloban, province of Leyte, into Eastern Visayas Medical Center, increasing its bed capacity from 500 to 1,500 beds and appropriating funds therefor. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 6971 and 6972. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg-Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Baños Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Kabotsan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredemil, Cayetano Alan Peter, Cayetano Mariel Arni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Co Juanco, Coliantes, Crisologo, Hua, Quaresma, Cueva, Coliamat, De Gook, Delipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, E. Ian, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Romita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Farinas Ria, Farinas Rudy Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Gurbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulias, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Haloshos, Javier, Jimenez, Co Eliza, Co Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lizatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Juan, Nolasco, Nunez Malanyaon, Uwaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Redaza, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand, Romualdez Yeda, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangcopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Saveliano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Elisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Ianco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan, T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate Zubiri. Second roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6971 and 6972. Abaya, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Aumentado, Baños Nograles, Barzaga, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bulot, Kabatbat, Kanama, Cari, Castro Fredenil, Cojuangco, Cua, Daza, Defensor Michael, Duavit, Elago, Farinas Rudy Cesar, Fernando, Ferrer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Gaite, Garcia, Pablo John, Garin Janet, Ko Eliza, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson Noel, Leachon, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Mercado, Noel, Nograles 1, Ortega, Panotes, Pichay, Silverio, Singson, Suarez David, C. Alvarado, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, T. Alan, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Villarica.
With 242 affirmative votes and no negative and abstention votes, House Bills number 6971 and 6972 are hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that we direct the Secretary General to immediately transmit the recently approved House bills on third reading. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the motion? There being none, motion is hereby approved. The Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the change of referral of resolution of both Houses number 6, resolution of both Houses proposing amendments to the 1987 Constitution, particularly Section 9, Article 8, from the Committee on Rules to the Committee on Constitutional Amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none to the motion. Objection? No. The chair hears no objection to the motion. Motion is hereby approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we include additional co-authors to House Bill number 6974, 6975, 6976, 7017, 7018, 7019, 7022, 7023, 7024, 7027, 7029, 7030, 7036, 7112, 7137, 7258, 7259, 7260, 7261, 7262, 7263, 7264, 309, 7302, 730, 7320, 7321, 7322, and 7332. And Resolution number 969, 1000, 1001, 1002, 1041, and 1042 as contained in the list to be submitted by the Committee on Rules.
Is there any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. The majority floor leader.
Mr. Speaker, in deference to our colleague and dear friend who has recently joined our creator, I move that we suspend session until August 11 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Is there any objection to the motion? The chair hears none. Motion is hereby approved. This session is hereby suspended until 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, August 11.
Bukas ulit. Bukas ulit. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, boss. See you tomorrow. That's good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Boss, thank you. Pauna na ako. Tara, sige. Let me join you.
What?